A lot of today I'll be sharing my screen so that you can follow along. But what we're going to do is there's sort of like a PowerPoint, but I'm not going to call it that because it's a little bit cooler. There's going to be a lot of story maps that we're going to go through to show you examples and get those ideas flowing for you, and then show you how to create some in the different settings. A lot of this might be overwhelming to start with, but you just start slow and you build up, and you take a while, you work with people, you work with us to build them out, and it can be a really awesome resource for your park or the work that you do and sharing it with others. All right, so let's get on started. So what are we looking at? This is a type of story map. Kind of looks like a PowerPoint presentation. I'm viewing this online. I've got all sorts of things on the side. This is the newest thing, and this is called a briefing. So we're going to be looking at a briefing, which is a type of story map. So if you do like this is a product you'll be able to make today. But so yeah, these are the different things we're going to be covering, what they are, the differences, how we get these nice themes so you don't have to do as much work, and how to add all sorts of really fun media and stuff to your story maps. So what is a story map? The type of name this is a little bit weird. It sounds a little cliche, but it's been around for a long time. This is one of the earliest Esri products for sharing things, and it's basically a way to create a website. You'll see I have a URL at the top that you can keep private or share with people. You can put lots of media and stuff on it, and it was originally made to help share maps better and put some context like text and images to them. But then a lot of people have adopted this into making just bigger kind of websites that share all this stuff together. And when I mean bigger people, I mean the Library of Congress, Smithsonian, the National Park Service. A lot of nonprofits use these. So you might recognize some of the different tools and stuff within here when you're looking at your local newspaper online, or like the New York Times or something. All of these different companies and groups have been using story maps, and they're so customized and branded with them that it seems seamless. It seems just like another website, but really behind it might be a story map. So if you ever see an interactive map that's on a website and a lot of media and stuff, and you start to recognize the different types that you can do, you'll see that these are all based on story maps. So who can make a story map? I'm assuming a lot of you in this call have a GIS license. Most of the people on our listserv are licensed. If you don't have one yet, just reach out to us. We'll make sure that you have the right type of license to get set up. And what that means is we have different tiers, and for this one, you need a creator level with publishing. So we've been working through that this week, trying to figure out the different levels that you need for it, but it's pretty easy. There are two types of products. There's storymaps.arcgis.com and storymaps.com. Put a bunch of X's down here because we don't want to play with that one, except on your own personal time if you want. So Storymaps is kind of the business style, and it lets you use maps. The non-GIS one, you can't use maps, and it's really for personal storytelling. Like if you wanted to document your next overlanding trip and share it on Facebook, and it has nothing to do with state parks, then maybe you might create a personal account for storymaps.com and use that. And there's no crossover, so you can't start building on this, personal one and transform it into like a state parks level one. They're kept in two separate accounts. So you really want to work with this ArcGIS.com one. And again, ArcGIS is the Esri software. That's our Google of mapping products. And that's where we make all this. So there are two types of products that are with story maps. The biggest one is articles. That's what they call them, and it's for long form storytelling, doing narratives, lots of interactive content like the maps, chapters, and we're going to show you all of these. And then the newest product they have is briefings. And briefings are cool because it's new. It's for quick like slideshows, presentations, things that are supposed to be sequential. But basically, at the end of the day, I could post this, share it to Facebook or LinkedIn, and anybody would be able to go and look at my presentation. So that's a little bit different than if you're making a presentation on OneDrive, which might be limited to just sharing in an organization, and you don't want to just put like a PDF document. You could share this and continue to add to it all the time and have it like on your LinkedIn or your Facebook page or something and just build it out. So imagine if you were doing like an OWL program and you just wanted to keep coming back to it over and over again and build out that presentation. This might be a cool way to do it. So to make things really easy on us, I'm going to minimize this so you guys get a bigger screen. There are a bunch of themes that come with Storymaps, and we have the ability to create an organizational level theme. And what that means is colors and text and a bunch of settings that really you get bogged down in customizing yourself. That's what happens to me all the time when I start from scratch. I'm just like, oh, I don't know what colors to use and what looks good and what's accessible. Well, luckily for you, you don't have to worry about that. So if I am to go to the Storymaps website and start building, I can look at the different themes that are available for my organization. And you'll see two that we started playing around with this week, which are State Parks Demo theme dark and a light theme. And we actually have some fonts in there and colors that are a little bit on brand. We're still working on them with our marketing team to get as much of our state parks marketing in there. You'll notice that other members of TDEC have made their own and put some themes in there that they can share them out. You can make it private if you want, but you could share it to your whole organization. And this is the landing page where you get to build your stories or your briefings, where you get to edit the ones that you've already created and reshare them. But back to the presentation. So when you're talking about themes, we have amazing branding guides that were configured by the marketing team that you can check out on the intranet site. So if you're not familiar with the intranet site, you'll have to log in real quick using your BG number, but tons and tons of awesome marketing resources. And I know you might have seen presentations where they do this, but I just want to circle this back into our stuff because it supports what we're doing here. You can get our logos, all the colors, hex codes, icons, those amazing hexagon icons with hikers and canoers and stuff on them. Really cool things, all from the marketing team, and you can use them in your story map. All right, so getting started. What you want to do is, before you do anything, you'll notice I don't have anything going on here, is make an outline. And I know that sounds like grade school stuff, but it really, really helps. So whether you're making it in a Word document real quick, you just want to put all your text together so you're not having to type it up here. And like, oh, I want to have a bunch of bullets. I want to have a combo of headers and text, and then put together a folder of all the images and videos that you're going to use. And it'll make it so much easier so that every time you go to add a media on here, you don't have to go searching for a random folder on your computer. You kind of keep it all together. And I know that seems like really easy stuff, but it does help. Even for us, like when we made this presentation, we had an outline and we're just copying text right into that. And that helps us move through this faster because learning any new tech thing is tricky, and things you can do to save time will make it a lot easier to learn. All right, so there are a bunch of types of story maps. And what you want to do is ask yourself, who is going to be the viewer of it? When are they going to be viewing it? And I mean, like, are they going to be this weekend on a specific one-time date? Is it a resource that's going to be around for a while and continue to be updated? Are you going to be showing it on like a presentation screen? Or is it going to be on a website? Or is it going to be on people's phones that you share out from like your Instagram page or something like that? So you want to know whether you're going to have to do a lot of scrolling, a lot of button pushing, or as little as possible. The nice thing about this briefing is it's just back and forth. There are no other buttons, no interactivity going on here, and it's pretty cool. So if I go to start making a story map, you'll notice this is how you do it. So you go to a new story. I'm not going to create a briefing, but it's the same thing here. You go to new story and you can start with these types. And if you're wondering where to start, we'll show you some examples, but you can also do it completely from scratch. And if you do that, be prepared for taking a lot longer time, but you'll learn that there's a benefit of doing that at some point, but maybe not on your first one. And if you're wondering what it looks like or some examples, there's a whole gallery we'll show you at the end where you could search for ones that are sidecar examples or guided map tour and see what the National Park Service or groups might be using these for. So that can be really helpful. And I hope so far you're getting kind of excited because you get to design your own little cool media websites, and you already have an account to do that. So it's really fun. The first type that I'm going to show you guys is a sidecar. And in state parks, me and Leah, we've made a bunch of story maps. Not a lot of these have gone public. You know, they've been project ideas that we haven't fully fleshed out. So what you see here, you might be like, I've never seen this website before. What is this? Well, we started down a road and then hit, you know, a roadblock or something and decided not to fully publish it. But we are learning during the process, and we have found some that have been really nice and published. So here is a sidecar example. So at the top, you have some branding. That's kind of what you call like a header. And then you have a temporary header where it's like the title of your story map. It tells when it was last published, and you can add all sorts of text and images. And what's really cool, I'm going to zoom in just to make sure you guys can see it as much as possible, is there's a little chapters on here. You'll see there's this arrow that's flowing down the side, and that's telling me that this is something I'm going to need to scroll. What you might not see as well over here is that there's another arrow telling me that if I move over, there's going to be some more chapters. So think about like, how many chapters do I want? In this case, we realized we had a little bit too many chapters to show going across this ribbon, so it might not be a good use of this style story map. We don't want to assume that the viewer is going to know to click this arrow to find all the others, and we don't want to leave the last end of the alphabet of our state parks off the page just because they're later on in the letters. But yeah, you can start, you get another header section, you can add a whole bunch of different images. This is actually one image we combine into a bunch of different ones. But this one is unique because it has a map. This is a map made as a web map in which we have locations, and there are pop-ups. And so just a little background on this project. We wanted to show where our storybook trails are, but then we realized, you know, later down the road that we have the option to switch these out as a library, and so it doesn't quite make sense to say that this one is going to be always Little Owl's Night at this park. So think about your data. Is it going to be static or dynamic? Who's going to be the one to update, and will you be able to keep it updated all the time? In this case, we didn't think we'd be able to keep track of where all the books were all the time, so it wasn't quite the best use for this. But you'll see on the left side, we're scrolling down. Oh, that was so cool. Full map, you scroll down and it zooms into the park. So the chapter has changed. This heading has changed, and there's you'll see that there are 20 different headings, sections here. And as you scroll down, you get pictures, you got a description of the story, and where the storybook trail is if we had that data. So you can actually see where the trail is. So in this case, it wasn't quite the most helpful one for us to use yet. I still think there's some good potential here, that we could make a story map someday about our storybook trails, and would love to do it. So if you guys are interested, bring it up with us sometime. But that is the style. If I click on these headers too, it'll jump to those. So that is really cool. So if you think within your park that you could have little small places that you were trying to give a tour about, this would be a really cool way to do that. And on the back end, you set little bookmarks related to each of these that tell you when I click Tim's Ford, zoom into this section of Tim's Ford. So it's not just zooming in to, you know, the entire lake, but it's actually going all the way down to a specific spot. You'll also notice that on this web map, we have icons that show up at a certain zoom level and disappear once you get down to a finer detail. So again, we have to go, if you want to learn how to make a custom web map that you're going to use in this, that's another training you might want to watch, but there are easier ways to do that. So that's a sidecar. On the side, you have the car that moves. This is the map is stationary, but zooms as you go. A guided map tour. This is a really, really fun one we started working with at Cordell Hall. That's kind of different. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. And again, these are just the different types. We started with the sidecar. Now we have a guided map tour, and I'll show you the differences. So in this case, we wanted to show the voyage of the SS St. Louis and show some history. This one is not, it's related to the park, It's related to Cordell Hull himself, but it doesn't take place at the park. So a park ranger isn't going around collecting points to use in a map. It's more broad than that. And so this was a good example of how to use this map tour. So different spots are set up chronologically. The order of these spots is really important for telling the story. This is a really narrative and story-based type of site. And so what I'm going to do is we set a different point just by zooming in and labeling it there in Hamburg, Germany. I'm able to add an image and a little bit of details about it. As I scroll, the map moves to Havana, Cuba, where I've added another photo and some more details. And you can get into a lot of depth with these. You could turn this one photo into a gallery of photos. You could have maybe audio and stuff there, but I'll save that for Leah's demo. And it's just a really nice way to zoom around. Like you've probably played with stuff like this before. I saw this in the Tennessee State Museum. I don't know if it was made by Storymaps, but it was really similar. That allowed the user to interact. So if you were ever able to get an interactive TV monitor in your park, that'd be so cool if you're able to allow kids to explore the history of your park or something related to something beyond your park. And that's what that looks like. Oh, and here's an example of using a swipe tool too. Just a way to get people to interact with your story a little bit more. So we got photos. In this case, we were just trying to put in content as placeholders, but I thought it was really cool. It's super fun and took us about an hour to do at the park because they already had the information and photos all in a folder for us. So that's a guided map tour. The Explorer map tour. Now we're letting the user have a little bit more control. The point of this project was me and Leah just wanted to show some of the maps that we've been doing for distressed counties. This was last year during a project, and be able to share that easily with some stakeholders. So give some text. Leah made this one, and it's super pretty. It's just really nice. It reminds me a little bit of National Geographic style. When you're able to use serif and sans serif fonts, different colors, but try to keep it on brand if you can. But there might be a reason that you use a serif font, that's a little bit more fancy if you're doing like a history or quotations and stuff. So in this case, you'll notice that's it. We're up and down, there's nothing here. So what are all these different things mean? Each one of these is a photo. So we have like a gallery of photos. And when you click on that individual photo, it's going to zoom down to where it is on the map. And these are really large file photos, but I can also expand this so that I can look at this map more closely. I could also just zoom around and pick one and click on it, and it automatically jumped to the next section. Remember at the beginning, it looked like kind of a gallery. As soon as you start interacting with the map, it becomes more of like a scroll on the side. Order is not important in this case, but we happen to do it alphabetically. We could have done it by date visited or something like that, but it's really fun. So just think of the different use cases and when you might want to use a specific one. And you see that there's an X button. So a lot of this kind of takes some knowledge about how people will interact with it too. So do publish your stories and play with it yourself. Play with it on your phone versus your desktop to understand what that's going to look like. And last but not least, we have full custom. And I want to just look at my outline real quick. See, so we have a couple of things I wanted to note before we go too much further is that you can view this stuff on your phone. Story maps are really cool because they're really optimized for mobile devices. Sometimes these look even better on a mobile device and are a little bit more intuitive than they are on your computer. If you're like me and you're designing, I'm usually working on a large, wide desktop, so things might look like there's a lot of space between them. And the reason for that is a lot more users are on laptops and even more are on mobile devices. So it's going to reformat and squish that stuff together. you don't have a lot of customization about how you can drag and drop things. And the whole reason is that Esri thinks they have a kind of a better idea on how things should be laid out than the general layman, and I trust them. When you work within their boxes and their confines, everything gets formatted really nicely when you're sharing. So we were looking for a second too at the last one, which is start from scratch. If you were to start from scratch, or any of these, it launches a story builder. And you can add your cover images, the title, and then you start telling your story. And what does that mean? You can add all sorts of things in here. Lee is going to show a little bit more of those. Timeline is a new feature. But you can add sidecars and map tours within your story map. So one single story map could have multiple sidecars and map tours. And that's a little bit overwhelming to think about. When it's done right, it's really, really awesome. But get familiar first with the beginning products before getting going kind of full custom and having a lot of things embedded. But I'll show you what that looks like when it's done right. So first up for our demo, I want to give a shout out. I don't know if anyone from the call is from the Division of Natural Areas, but David Pineros and those folks made a really, really fun story map to review their year, to kind of be like, there is so much content and stuff that we've done this year. Let's put it in a story map where someone can choose what they're interested in exploring. So they have sections at the top. And again, I think I want to shout out good customization of even the arrows. You can choose what color they are. You'll notice back on that Storybook Trails one that my arrow was kind of too dark to notice. This is a little bit more noticeable. If you're doing it on your phone, all you're going to have to do is swipe with your finger and it's going to move these along, which is really nice. And as you zoom down, he's got nice pictures embedded on the side. Great storytelling. So one photo, this could have been a map, but it's a photo, remains while he gets to tell the story about that centrally right there. And he's got some videos. In this example, David's got a bunch of different, it's kind of a gallery of photos and makes us pretty jealous of the work that they get to do. This one has a slideshow that's kind of behind the text, and so as you swipe, you can scroll down a bunch, but the image can change in the background. Later on, there's a web map embedded which shows where the prescribed burns took place, and so now we got that cart going. They're numbered, so there's an order to this. He could have made it so that it was one interactive map. I mean, in some ways it is, but it could have been a map that you saw the entire state and you chose which site to go to first. But in this case, he wanted to have this chronological and has them as numbered locations, which you zoom around to. And I just think it's a really fun way to show, you know, the acreage that they burned and give some perspective. If I were to take control and zoom all the way out, I could see his map and see all the different locations that were on it. So, and this is another version. So the acquisition of new land, there's an overview map, and as you go through the different tracks, it kind of slides around to the state. So he's created little bookmarks that remain on this area. And that's that one. All right, the last full custom is in 2020. I was only a few months into this job, and we wanted to do a year in review of the mapping projects that TDEC does. And so this one, I had a lot of fun. What I did was I didn't have a lot of content to work with. Most people just sent me a couple images. And so what I did is I zoomed in on the image or a video, recorded myself moving the photo along slowly like this. You can kind of see it staggers, but it turned into a video, and then put all those video segments together. And so I had a nice looping video in the background, but I think it has a nice effect. You get to having the chapters up top, and you can have some maps, very, very general. And this one, again, the media behind each section is a video, and you can almost see my mouse pulling my recorded video behind it. If I had actual video segments, I could have just embedded those behind, but all I had was this one map, and I was trying to make it seem more interesting by turning it into a video element behind what people were reading. This is another example where I just took screenshots of the web map. So there are 5 different photos behind here, but it almost looks like I'm scrolling around the map because I keep the frame the same, and then I just add different text. And then I'm able to embed any GIS product as well into that story map. This one is some actual video from the Division of Water Resources, and I've put their story map inside our TDEC story map. So I could click into here and begin interacting with their story map, which gets we're getting into like Inception level things. Maybe it'd be better to open it into a new tab. But then the last one we had was state parks. And again, these are just little video clips I made put behind here. So just a really fun way to show off that media. And we got links out to the different learning plans. If you're wondering, how do I see other people's story maps so I can get some ideas? Well, the best way to do that is go to our story maps page. If you go to your stories, you won't see anything, but if you click on my organization, you can see all the ones that have been shared publicly. Even Eric shared this one recently. I could look into it. If you're not done with it yet, maybe keep it private or share to just your organization, especially if it's something that's not related to, that it's not to be seen beyond state parks. You would want to keep that at the organization level. That means you'll have to have a login to sign in. But TDEC does a lot with story maps. They're the ones that have made the most in our organization. So if you're looking for good ideas, that's a great place to go. All right. So I'm going to take a break for a second, and I'm going to let Leah jump on and show us all about using different types of media. And while she's getting set up, she's going to be able to show us how we use this stuff too on our phones and tablets. So she's made a story map, and it's really cool to be able to just see it come to life on the computer, and then how one would view it on their phones. Real quick, before I say anything more, does anyone have any questions? If you do, you can put them in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer them as we're going. All right, thanks. Take it away, Leah.
All righty. I'm a frequent flyer to the Roan Mountain area. My husband and I love going to this area to backpack, hike, go fly fishing, and we tell our friends about it all the time. But just to make sure they understand how awesome this area is, I've made a story map. Now, my story map features a lot of my media, but it doesn't have a map concept, but I totally could add one if I wanted to later. So just starting off, you'll see my cover picture with my title that I've set. It'll allow you to put an author, so I just put Tennessee State Parks. And then I'm going to scroll down. Like Andrew said, the arrow is kind of guiding me down. I do have those tabs where I can click on these, and it's a shortcut to those sections. But basically, we go down, and it talks about how Roan Mountain State Park is a perfect base camp for the weekend. They've got cabins. If I click reserve now, it'll take me to that site so I can book a cabin. If I keep scrolling down, I've embedded a video on the left side. So this is me driving up in the snow, and I've got a little caption that says it's only an 8-mile drive from Roan Mountain to Carver's Gap, where the Appalachian Trail is. If I keep scrolling down, that's going to lead me into my next slide, is what they're called. And that's Carver's Gap. So I've added an image of me hiking the Appalachian Trail. My favorite hike. I've linked out to a cool blog about it in case they want more information. And I've also included a picture of winter time so they know they can go any time of year. If I keep moving down, I'm going to start featuring the rhododendron and azaleas that you can see at Carver's Gap. It gives you some more information and shows you some pictures of what you'll see. And then I've embedded the link to the Rhododendron Festival. So this is a little different than like a linked text. This is an embedded link. So as you can see, the latest title on this website is featured here, which they're talking about their latest event, Philodendron. So if I click on that, it'll take me to that website. And if I scroll down, you'll see where that information is pulling from. So it's kind of dynamic, which is nice to keep up with events. If I keep scrolling down, as you can see, you can also add in videos. So this is my little family fishing at Rocky Fork. It's talking about how they have brook and rainbow trout population and how it's great for fly fishing. And then I've added a photo of a little wild rainbow. So here's some examples of media you can use, but I've just remembered that we went somewhere else. So I'm going to show you how to add in a new slide and some other media. So I'm just going to click Edit Story. And this is my story builder. Just as a hint, if you ever click the Design tab at the top, it's going to give you some options for like the cover picture. So this is kind of the default. I didn't love this because it was cropping my photo. Same with the side panel. So we're going to keep it on the full screen. Also, like Andrew mentioned, these tabs are super helpful for avoiding scroll fatigue. So that's just turning on this navigation option. And then lastly, I have my themes where I'm using the state park's light theme, but technically I could go to my organization, change it to dark if I wanted to. I don't love that for my picture, so I'm going back to the light. All right, and then I'm just going to scroll down, and you can see when I start getting to the slides, you'll see that all of these paragraphs and titles, buttons, videos, and images are all just adding the plus button, and like Andrew said, you just click what you want to add. And this sidecar little pane down here will show up and kind of show you the order of events as you scroll. So if I wanted to, I could reorder my slides and all of the media and text that's linked with that slide will move with it. You also have the option to change how it fades from slide to slide. So I'm going to go to my rhododendron one and I'm going to add a new slide. All right. So first I'm going to add a title. So I'll click the plus button, text. It's automatically defaulted to paragraph, but I want to use heading 1. And we're going to call this Hampton Creek Cove State Natural Area. And then I'm going to add in another text. And I've got a bunch of text that's basically explaining that this area is right down the road from Roan Mountain State Park, and it happens to have one of the most productive brook trout streams in Tennessee. So of course we want to know that. As you can see, it's kind of a long paragraph, so I'm just going to click enter, and it's going to make it into 2. I think that looks a little better. And then we want to make sure that people have a fishing license when they go here. So I'm going to add a button. And now I'm going to call this, don't forget a fishing license. And then I'm going to click edit. I'm going to go to the, let's see, hold on, I've got my presenter. There we go. And I've got the TWRA fishing website, so I'm going to edit this. enter that website, click enter, and now that button will take people to where they can buy a fishing license. Also, for some fun, we're going to add in audio. So we want to know what it sounds like. So I'm going to browse my files. We're going to go to my folder where everything is. I have a babbling brook. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to make sure the volume is not crazy loud. I'll add that, and just so people know what it is, I'm going to add a caption that it's the left prong of Hampton Creek. All right, and then for my big photo, because brook trout are great, we are going to add an image. We're going to browse my files, add a nice little photo of a brookie I caught. Let it load. There we go, okay? And then because I added a new slide, I'm just gonna change it to a slow fade like my other slides. And now I am ready to publish. So everything looks good. I go from Rhododendron to Hampton Creek Cove, now to Rocky Fork. So I'm gonna click publish. And right now I'm sharing it to public so all of you can see it. And then I push publish. It's going to publish my story, and it's done. Sweet. And then now I'm going to show you what it looks like from a phone. So give me just a second.
That was really cool. I can't wait to hear what the audio part sounds like. And if anyone's looking for a fishing guide, and I think Leah will take you around the parks. Or if you guys know of any good spots, let us know. We'd love to see them when we visit the parks. The storybook, the story maps are really, really easy to build and add stuff to. I've never seen a platform where it's so easy to quick add different types of things, just drop them in there, and the settings, the different fades. It just keeps getting better every couple months with new releases. And if you're interested, Storymaps will do a new release. Every 3 months they put out an article and a YouTube video talking about the newest things, and you can subscribe and make sure that you see all the new releases. And it's a really cool way to find out about new stuff.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay. So here is my story map on a phone. So if I'm scrolling up, it actually looks pretty good. I like it better on a phone. So I'm just going to keep scrolling. You'll see my tabs, and I can scroll along like this. I can also click them and they'll take me to that page. I'm just going to scroll up. The buttons are there, the videos are there, and we'll keep going until our section about, oh, you know what? I didn't click refresh. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, scrolling down. There we go. So here's our new section on Hampton Creek Cove. And then I'm going to show you how the audio sounds. I'm hoping you can hear that.
Oh yeah, we heard it. It was babbling. I love how the photo is locked onto the top of the screen too as you're scrolling through the text. That's a pretty cool trick. It's like a big header photo.
Yes. So that's my story map. I'm going to show you one other cool example. We did not make this one, but it's pretty sweet. It uses a lot of sounds. So as I scroll down, it's going to talk about Montana's ecosystems. There's some birds. Then we're going to get into Yellowstone. And then they've done some really cool stuff with different species. They've got like all right. Before my dog starts barking, I'm gonna hand it back over to Andrew.
Thanks, Leah. That's so awesome. Yeah, that story map was really fun when we stumbled upon it, and definitely got all our dogs barking and stuff. So sorry if you had visitors coming in and thought there was a bear in the back office, but and if you notice too with the audio, there's going to be two options where you can embed it so that you just click play like they did for the different species, and then there you can automatically play as you scroll to the section too. So just a really cool thing. Same with the video. You could embed a YouTube video or have one that you have to click to play, or stuff that just plays automatically in the background. So really fun. All right, so we did media. One of the last things I want to cover are the different maps. So you could never have to touch a map and still call it a story map. It's more of a map of your narrative than anything else. But if you do want to get into maps, that's what the power of doing an ArcGIS story map does. And there's two types. There's on-the-fly ones and web maps. So on the fly is kind of what we did for Cordell Hull. And what we did is just drop different points by typing in the address where we wanted, Hamburg, Germany, and it created a map. Didn't have to do any customization. But if your goal is to showcase like really detailed collections of stuff that you did. So if you were the Division of Natural Areas and you walked the perimeter of where your burn was, it's really important to show that exact area. Or if you've collected field data or made a beautiful web map, then you would want to be embedding an actual web map. We had a course earlier this year, and we're going to do another one about how to create a web map. Maybe this year we'll tie it into embedding it into a story map at the end. But if you need help on that, just look at our YouTube channel. We have an intro to web maps tutorial on there. So with that, before I go on to sharing, I'm going to show you how to create the map style story maps. So I go to start, and I'm going to make a new story. This time I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the guided map tour. Bear with me if we end up doing something different. So it starts to build it. I'm going to skip all the title stuff because all I want to do is work on the map. So you'll notice that there are settings for this map. We have base maps. You can make it 2D, 3D. And on this style, you are just dropping location. So this is if you're making that kind of tour. If I want to add the location, all I have to do is zoom in, or I could search. So I could just do Nashville, drop a point, and I can tell it to use the map tour setting, which is going to like automatically zoom to 5,000 feet every time. Or I could use the current zoom level. So for this one, I want it to go into this region of Nashville always. So I'm going to add that. When I make a second tour stop, it's going to be somewhere else. Maybe I'll do a different capital, or major city, and do Chattanooga this time. But in this case, I want to go to right downtown Chattanooga on the waterfront. And I want to get really detailed and use that level. And so real quickly, I've already added 2 locations. Everything that Leah did, I can also do, which is add images, videos, text. When you go to here, there's a little bit less options once you're working in the map versus just a custom story map like Leah did. But you can still add buttons and text. You might have noticed earlier there were some settings for the map too. So we can change the base map. We don't always have to use Human Geography Lite. If we go to My Map, Browse Maps, we could use an actual map that you have made or that someone in your organization has made. And boy, are there a lot of maps. But once you do that, you're going to, if I chose the One Smart Park map, that would be a choice because it's going to carry in every single asset that we've collected. So that's not exactly what I'm trying to show here, unless there's some context and I'm just trying to show off everything that's been collected at my park. So here's a demo I did yesterday in which I was trying to use satellite imagery and make some of our park areas pop a little bit more. So in this case, maybe this is a fun map to use. And so now that I have that, I got some cool 3D stuff. If you want to learn how to make a kind of a 3D vector tile layer, let me know, and we can make some cool base maps for you. But as we zoom around, it's going to go to different spots. And I'm going to add one last spot just so we can have it zoomed out. And I'm going to go towards North Chickamauga for this one. Add location. And we're working on that base map or that map that we wanted to use. So I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to use this zoom level. And so now with my 3 tour stops, we go to all these places. So you can get really granular and zoom on into just little spots around your park. In that case, you want to give it some context. You don't want it to just be a green blob of your park boundary. Maybe you want to use aerial imagery. Maybe you want to use some topography or something with a streets reference layer. So do think about that when you choose your base map. There should be a reason that you've chosen it. With my cases, I think the geography one is a helpful one, but you can choose, if you hover over them, it'll tell you what's on there. But when you have ones, imagery hybrid is when you have imagery with a reference layer. And think about your audience too. If you're going to be having it like in your park on display there, maybe you can go full custom. But if you're sending it out to the public, maybe work with things that they're most familiar with. Things that look like Google Maps or aerial satellite imagery, Google Earth. But yeah, you have a lot of control. You can change your point colors, make them really cool. And and set your initial zoom level. So I don't know if you guys remember that natural areas one, how it was always zoomed out to a certain level. That's how they did that. All right, so that's a full custom. I mean, sorry, that's the one where you're just dropping your own points. I'm going to go back and make a different one. This time I want to make a story map that uses a map that I've already have in the points. And this I haven't done too much of recently, so bear with me as I try to learn it on the fly for you guys. So what you notice when you're in full custom, I have an option to add a whole bunch of things like Leah showed, but I can also add a map. And to do that, I'm going to use this map that I just made called State Park High Points. This is hypothetical. I have not climbed to verify if these are the highest points in the state, but it's pretty cool. This is a web map. The 2 layers I have on here are my park polygons and a point for different high points. If I want to add more high points, I only did 3 for this demo. I can edit it in ArcGIS. It's going to take me to my map viewer where I can keep adding more and more points. I don't want to do too much of this, but I will show you guys if we were going to do one more. Let's say I wanted to add a point at Warrior's Path. I could create my new feature and drop it there, give it a name, Warrior Mountain, elevation 1,352 feet. And once I hit save, it's going to take in my new map. So if I did zoom out, yeah, see there's a new one up at Warrior's Path. So I'm going to place my map at this, which one? This, like I have 4 points. So I have one at Frozen Head too. So this is the extent I want to show people. Great. So now what do I do with it? I have a map, but let's make it more interactive. So I'm going to add a sidecar, and these are the 2 options. You can have it docked, so it's on the left, or you can have it floating over your map. So it depends. Like if you don't want it to block the content because that content is really important, you might put it there. If you don't want your content cropped, maybe you do put it in the full size. And again, I can add image or audio, but I'm going to add that map, my high points map. And my first point is going to be Warrior's Path. So Warriors is the next one. I'm going to add another map. The same thing. You guys get where I'm going with this. Now I'm going to do the Roan Mountain one. and I want it to zoom in to about this level, place the map. Beautiful. And that's how you would get it to, you create, so that's really cool that you could have multiple different types of maps embedded to tell your story, but really you're just embedding the same map like 4 times and choosing a different location. Here I can add my photos, my media, all that stuff, and call it a day. Then you hit publish. When I hit publish, I'm going to jump right into my last section, which is about sharing settings. So when I hit publish, let's see. These are the different sharing levels. Private, only you. Organization, for everybody. In your organization, all TDEC members that have a license, you'd be asked to sign in. So if you're going to share it publicly, you would need to make sure you do public. Otherwise, they would need a license within our organization to sign in. Just because you work for the National Park Service and have a GIS license doesn't mean you can see stuff that's in our organization. So I'm going to hit, I'm actually going to do private because that is a janky map so far. And you'll notice too that certain, you might get warnings that say these require authentication or the points that you've created haven't been shared publicly. So be aware and read through that stuff as well to know more about it. All right. Oh, the last part, I don't know if I showed you when I was publishing it in the settings is when I go to publish, you can enable this to be found by Google. Once I make it public, the only way that anyone would ever find my story map is if I sent them this link, or if I linked it out to it from my website or something, or embedded it. But if you had like the best story map of all time, a great one is Eric Runkle's at Montgomery Bell. He's made this amazing history of Montgomery Bell story map. I think that's worth sharing, and I believe it should show up in Google search results. If you check this box, it will show up. So that it's going to have great recommendations. You'll be able to see it if you search for Google and say, you probably did get kind of specific Montgomery Bell GIS story map, and that would be what shows up. What's really cool about story maps is they've been enabled to do well in Google searches. And the way they do that is by having awesome accessibility ratings. So about the spacing and how quickly things load and how content is linked and stuff. So it's optimized for that, so it shows up really well in Google searches. And our themes and stuff have really good accessibility built into them. And I'll show you that real quick too about when we built out the theme, how the accessibility rating worked. So under my themes, and if you were ever to make your own theme or do some additional customization, when I go to my colors, I'm going to use my text colors actually real quick. And I chose this color. It gave me the rating of legible. And that is telling me that it has enough contrast and lightness from the background to the foreground, and how it scored on this. And you can learn more about their accessibility stuff here. So, and it just gives you a lot of recommendations. They're trying to be a leader, so they're building in a lot of these things that help them succeed in making story maps accessible to people. So yeah, that's why you don't want to do all neons all the time and not just play with lots of colors, because accessibility is important. All right, last but not least, resources. Again, we were using the briefing style of a story map. So if you just want to make a presentation that you can share and keep updated, that's not stuck on OneDrive forever, this might be a cool place to do it. But here you'll find the Storymaps login site where you'll see the creator. You can get to the gallery. I love the Storymaps gallery because it's where I can search for all the different types of story maps that have been created. So I could search for National Park Service, or I could filter for a different type. I could look at different industries, non-topics, or nonprofits, different topics, nature and physical sciences, and see just how good people do with story maps. Our resources, our YouTube channel, the Smart Parks Hub, how to get to our TDEC GIS page where you might create your own web map and content. And then we made some learning plans too. So if you really want to get into this and my voice is not the one you want to keep hearing, you can watch and take these courses. They're free. They're really in-depth, brought to you by Esri. Just open up this link. If it doesn't work for you, send me a message and we can kind of enroll you, and you get marked off for your progress, and your academy, which is your Esri training stuff, gets logged forever. So when you complete a course or watch a video and do all that stuff, it gets saved to your account forever, which is really cool if you ever wanted to use that to tell people the type of stuff that you've done. And if you want to go into even more depth and you just like watching stuff like quick tutorials, some folks have made some really great playlists online, which is like, beginner storytelling techniques, all sorts of different little pieces that go into more depth. So awesome stuff. I hope you guys enjoy it. And from here on out, I'm going to leave it open to a bunch of questions. And I hope you guys will start using some story maps. Reach out to us whenever you want to get involved in this or start on your own. But we'd be happy to work with you one-on-one to build out your stuff and just play with it with you guys. Awesome. Thank you. And thanks, Leah, for your presentation and all the sounds and media. And I hope we'll all get up to Carver's Gap and Roan soon enough. So feel free to put your questions in the chat and we will answer them or chime in. We'll be online for the next 10 minutes or so. So thank you, guys.
I'll add something, just so you're aware, the briefings option, which is like the presentation slides, you can add maps to those as well. So if your presentation or a briefing and you want a map concept, you can add that.
Yeah, thanks, Philip. I'll put it in the chat too, but the best thing would be to send it over to us just to review. We can help you tailor it, make sure it's all perfect and everything's been thought through, and then we'll work with the marketing team, because that's something we're trying to develop now, is where do these things live, and where do you want to share it? So yeah, if you make one, send it on over. We'd love to look it over with you, and we'll talk about the marketing team on how to publish it. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, George. Thanks, Mary. It's Todd. Yeah, it can connect to live data. So if you are going to make a web map with live data in it, like you're using a feature stories, say it's data that you've been collecting out in the field, it will live update to the map, which will live update to the story map. So it's a great, the story maps have been used in amazing ways with search and rescue and response stuff, like with FEMA during large events. They'll put all that information up there, see it come in live. So it's really cool. Well, I hang on for questions. Just a few more minutes. I'll share too. If you are going to the Storymaps gallery to get some inspiration, you can sort by not relevance, but by view count and see the most popular story maps of all time. No surprise. This COVID one was really cool. Not really going to open it to, I don't want to put a downer on things, but this was one of the ways that they broadcast their information. Talk about a live feed. They were able, yeah, that's a Debbie Downer, but you know, that's an example of having live data built in. But yeah, some of them are really beautiful. It's an awesome opportunity to do storytelling. So if you did want to do audio and video recordings and have a place, that's not just like a YouTube channel. It's a good place where you could add some context to the videos. This one, you know, it focuses on each individual, has the, you know, it's embedded to uploaded to SoundCloud, but you can, yeah, hear all about their stories about each place. So just thought that was a fun example. And we even have maps built in here. So, all right. Well, with that, thank you guys for joining us, and really reach out anytime you got questions. And I hope to see some new story maps popping up in the next couple weeks. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.